On today's Tech Help for Churches, responsive versus mobile. Hi everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Tech Help for Churches. I, of course, am your host, Paul Allen Clifford, and I would love for you to join the conversation. So if you could head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact. Here, let me actually change to that logo. Forgot I need to do some work on this particular document. So head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact and you can engage with me in the conversation. So you can also give me a call 1-877-763-3246 or 1-877-POD-ECHO if that helps you remember it. Or drop me a line, Paul at trinitydigitalmedia.com. I'm on Twitter, Paul Allen Cliff. That's PAULALANCLIF. And I would love to interact with you at that address. Or the phone number, or what have you. Anyway, so one other thing that I wanted to talk about is churchstreaming.tv. Churchstreaming.tv is my provider for the streaming service that I'm using right now, this very minute. Now, you might be watching it on YouTube later, or you might be listening to it, or what have you. But if you're watching the video podcast, or if you're watching the live stream, or you're watching on Roku, any of those three, you're getting the video from churchstreaming.tv, and they have a wonderful deal for you to try out. Here's what I want you to do. Just head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/churchstreaming and give them a tryout. Tell me if it works for you. It could be that it doesn't, but I bet you'll be surprised how much you love it. And their tech support, top notch. So they've even, if you think, well, I could never do that, they've got a step-by-step checklist to make sure that you don't forget something important as you're starting up your stream. That's the kind of attention to detail we're talking about. And when I talk to them, they get right back to me. I drop them a line on email. They get right back to me, answer my questions. Sometimes I've even said, how would I do this? And they've said things like, oh, well, you can't right now, but we're working on it. And next thing I know, there's a new feature. So I've been really, really, really pleased with what they do. So head on over there, give them a try. Just to be forthright, I do get a little something if you do use that link, so it would help out the show. That would be very, very helpful to me so that I can keep on doing this. So let's talk about today's topic. I don't know if you've got a smartphone or a tablet, but if you do, which most people do, they at least have one of those two, you've probably run into this problem. You're surfing along and all of a sudden you get to a website and it's this ugly just list of links. And as you look at the address, it usually starts with M. dot and then the website address, or mobile dot and then the website address. And you probably think to yourself, I just want the regular website because this leaves out a bunch of stuff, it's not very good looking, etc. Well, you might go to another website and it looks a lot like the full website, but it just seems like it's sized better for your screen. Okay, so in the first case, that was a mobile website. In the second case, it was a responsive website. So what is the difference? Well, maybe a year or two ago, people started thinking, wait, instead of looking at the web browser and deciding, is this a mobile browser? And if it is, sending it to a different version of the site, what if we just designed the site so that what happens is it would get smaller and realign things based on the size of the screen. So that is called responsive web design, and it's the way that your website needs to be if it's not there already. So I've made a couple of mistakes in my web design on trinitydigitalmedia.com, so while it's responsive, it doesn't look as good as I want it to. Excuse me. But if you go to Creating Church, you'll see a fully responsive web design. So if you go on your laptop or your desktop computer to creatingchurch.com, I'd love for you to sign up, but while you're there, I want you to just look at how everything just squishes or reflows so that it fits in the web browser. And that's really the way that you want to do it, because mobile sites are kind of a holdover from the time where everyone had Blackberries or some similar phone, and a Blackberry or another phone back in the day, haven't used one for years, but back in the day it didn't have a great web browser, and they wanted to save you money because like the top web internet connectivity package was like 200 megs. Now we've got 2 gig packages, 4 gigs, etc. So we've got more bandwidth, and with the advent of the iPhone, one of the revolutionary things was that the iPhone, the original iPhone, would display an entire website, and you could double tap on sections and have it zoom into those sections. That's still a valuable feature when you go to the full website, but it's really nice when you go to a responsive website that like takes the sidebar and moves it underneath so that anything you need from the sidebar is still accessible. It's just not right there where the content, which is what you came for, is. A lot of times too, the navigation menu along the top, instead of being along the top, it will be like a drop down list. So if you don't need it, it's out of the way. But if you do need it, you can tap on it and have it drop down, and then you can choose the appropriate source. Man, you'll excuse me, I was freelancing all weekend, running a camera, running a switcher, all that craziness, and for like a bazillion teenage cheerleaders on this national championship, and I am tired. Going back to bed right after this. So back to my thought. So responsive web design is something that you really, really need to consider as you're working on your website. I was reading through like 15 things that need to die in 2014 on the web, and it was all like web designers they asked. So one of the things that they said was the mobile website, because designing a totally separate website for mobile when we now have the techniques of responsive web design is a big mistake. What you want is a website that as people go there, it doesn't matter what their device is, they will get a good experience. And they'll get the same website, just reformatted. Now, the way that they do that is, it used to be that you'd say, hey, I want my website to be optimized for a 1280 by 720, for example. 1280 by 720 computer screen. And so I've got, I've got a little bit on each side. So let's say it's 600 pixels wide. So I'm going to put a little extra just so that I've got some padding on either side. And then I've got 600 pixels that I'm actually playing with. I'm going to make the main column like 400 pixels wide, and then the side column like 200 pixels wide. So that's what I'll do. Well, instead, if you had 600 pixels, instead of saying 400 and 200, if you said 33%, or if you said 66% and 33%, then you see how that changes, right? So if instead of a 700, man, I'm tired. I'm just doing the math totally wrong. I was doing the vertical resolution as the horizontal resolution. So, but still, let's keep with our numbers just to make them simple, because I am so tired. So instead of 400 and 200, you do 66% and 33%. Well, it doesn't matter if your screen is, if you're playing with 600 pixels, or if you're playing with 1,000, or if you're playing with 300, you're going to get the same ratio. But you would also include things like the minimum width is so much. So you don't want it to be the case that the middle content always gets smushed and the sidebar always smushes to be right beside it. You would say something like, okay, I know that in portrait, an iPhone is however many pixels. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I know that it's so many pixels wide. So the minimum width of that main column is going to be however many pixels wide the iPhone is. And then I'm going to set up the flow so that the side column flows underneath it instead of floating up to the side of it if there isn't enough width. So that's very simplified. That's a huge overview. That's not really much detail at all, but that's the basic idea of it. Is instead of saying, okay, this wide, you say this percentage of the whole, but no smaller than this wide. You see how that's different than, so saying something is a maximum of 150 pixels wide. I don't know if that's an appropriate number whatsoever. Getting very tired. But if something is a minimum of 150 pixels wide, or 33% of the screen, if the screen is, let's say, 160 pixels wide, it's not going to, well, let's say it's 140 pixels wide, it's not going to squish it down so that the main content is in 66% of 140 pixels. It's going to keep it at 150 pixels. So, if that helps you. I don't think I'm being all that clear, but I just wanted to get this show out before I head back to bed, and I wanted you to look into that as you're working on your website, as you're making sure that it's up to snuff. You know that content drives traffic. Well, so does design. So, and a responsive web design is going to get more attention than a mobile only site, which also will get more attention than no provision for mobile whatsoever. And depending on your site, it could be that you find that you're getting huge mobile traffic. So Google Analytics provides some degree of measurement on this, and in my case I think that like a third of my traffic is mobile, so it matters that I attend to this. And it's certainly the case that I want to make things as easy for people as possible so that they'll continue to stay and interact with my products and interact with my site, and together we'll go out and change eternity. So I hope that that is helpful to you, and I hope that until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.